Il fait chaud chez toi.
Quiet on the set. Quiet, please. First positions, please. Rolling action.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Director's Cut. I am joined here with Bill.
Hello.
And Bill is another fellow movie lover, and on this occasion, we're talking about one of our favorite films of all time, well, the saga of all time, which is Indiana Jones.
Yes, a childhood favorite of mine.
It's it's from the 80s, right? Early 80s.
Yeah.
So we were actually not even really born when the first one came out.
Right, it's kind of the same thing with Star Wars.
Star Wars.
So Star Wars was one of my childhood absolute favorite films. Harrison Ford obviously stars in both. That was the link between them for me. But yeah, I mean, they came out before I was really conscious, yet they really form, my view of the world. I don't know, is that saying too much?
My philosophy is based on Star Wars and Indiana Jones. All right, so Indiana Jones has 4 movies. That's the saga. The first one is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Which is the original title. I think they didn't really expect to come out with a series because the first movie is called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Why would that not signify they're having more movies?
Well, because then the second one was called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, okay, so the first one didn't have Indiana Jones
No, it didn't.
in the front.
It was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, I had no idea.
And then the second one was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And then the third one is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Right.
And the fourth one, Indiana Jones and the Skeleton Skull. What is it?
The Crystal Skull?
The Crystal Skull. Now,
I guess it wasn't the Last Crusade. It was the next to Last Crusade. Let's hope.
Actually, the fourth one stands out because it wasn't as good as the first 3, right?
Right. Well, I mean, they didn't make it until, at least 20 years?
20 years
after.
later?
Yeah, I mean, something like that.
So the fourth one, did you watched it, right?
The fourth one?
Yeah.
The latest one, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Same thing happened with Star Wars, where they started releasing... Star Wars is a little bit different because... they released the prequels, and so a lot of the real movies, we could say, the original movies, had their basis in the prequels. But this Indiana Jones thing just seems like such an add-on, just trying to attract more viewers based on their previous affection for the movie. I just can't stand that.
I guess it's like
marketing.
the 2 last movies of Sylvester Stallone as well, like Rambo 4 and Rocky 6.
Right.
It was like the last... just like the last huff of breath of air that Sylvester Stallone had to make those 2 last movies.
Right. I mean, and it's marketed directly to people like us, our age.
Yeah.
Because when we were kids, we weren't forced to see these movies, but maybe we were taken by our parents or we grew up with these movies. And now that we have some income, they say, hey, why don't we try and make some more money off of these people by creating some more movies?
So the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, all 3 of them. I mean, yeah, I loved all of them. Raiders of the Lost Ark, in the 3, I think I like it the best.
Really? The first one?
Yeah.
Why?
It doesn't have that franchisey kind of kitsch to it. I mean, the later 2 kind of play off of his character in the first movie. So
right.
It's kind of derivative, maybe we could say, it's not as original, maybe.
Right.
But I mean, all 3 have their good points. But Raiders of the Lost Ark definitely, it strikes me as one of the scarier ones and one of the.
It was pretty scary.
And the action, I think, is a little better too in the first one.
So Raiders of the Lost Ark, basically, they are the Nazis are looking for the Ark of the Covenant, which is like this. Supposedly, it's where they transported the 10 Commandments.
Right.
So
the actual tablets.
So it's a very powerful instrument, and whoever has the Ark of the Covenant has absolute power.
Right.
And obviously the Nazis are after it.
Yeah.
And
that's something I was thinking about just when I thought when I heard we were going to be doing this episode about Indiana Jones. Is just I love the one-sidedness of the enemies. Like any villain in a lot of action movies is just pure evil, but it seems like in Indiana Jones
it's always Nazis.
Yeah, well, it's Nazis I guess it is always Nazis. Well, besides the second one.
The second one wasn't Nazis. The third one was The Last Crusade. It was also Nazis looking for the Holy Grail.
Right, and you can't argue with you can't. There's no common ground with Nazis. It's very easy to hate the enemies in all Indiana Jones, and I think that's.
I think that's also American movies in general. The enemies are usually either Nazis or the Russians.
The Russians, yeah.
Or on certain occasions, the Chinese.
And absolutely no redeeming qualities whatsoever. It doesn't complicate things at all.
This is actually a very common pattern in Hollywood. But then the
heroes are purely good and the enemies are purely evil.
Purely evil. The second one, Temple Temple of Doom was also very good. It was set in India, so it was interesting because it had a lot to do with like religion and magic as well. I guess all three of them have to do with religion.
Yeah, I mean, well, because he's an archaeologist, right? So I think that's kind of one of the more interesting parts of the script is that it introduces you to some semi-historical things. I mean, obviously they're not completely accurate, but
it does make
interesting.
It does make the profession of being an archaeologist look really cool.
Totally cool.
But in reality, I mean, archaeologists spent like...
They don't carry pistols around usually.
They don't have
and
whips.
Yeah.
All right, and then so in the second one, he was looking for some stones, returning them to the village.
Right, magic stones that were stolen by the most evil person.
Yeah, it was like
in India,
a witch guy,
yeah.
And he would take out your heart, and he would say Kalimang. You remember that? He would go Kalimang and take out your heart.
Yeah.
All right, and then in the third one, he actually teams up with his dad in the movie, Sean Connery.
Right.
And then they look for the Holy Grail.
Right. And that, I think that's the only one of the Indiana Jones movies that I remember watching in the theater.
Oh, really?
And I remember just having this feeling, this like kind of self-reflective feeling, because you've seen the two ones previous, and then you see that one, and it's like, it was almost the first time I ever realized that a movie had like a formula and was being like marketed to certain people. Yeah, because as you're going through it, I mean, the action is like nonstop. The action's really great, Yeah. Maybe that's just the first time I realized that, because I grew up watching the first two. It was like a home video type of situation. I watch them endlessly, And then I finally saw this other one, and it was so obviously a product of the first two movies.
Right, yeah.
That it struck me as quite strange.
It was very similar, because in the first one they're looking for a religious object.
Right.
And in the third one also it's the same thing. Like,
right, the cup that held Christ's blood.
Exactly, the one
right?
that he used in the Last Supper.
Right.
It was kind of interesting that it was guarded by what are these guys called? The one that Dan Brown talks about.
The night guide that was
the
guardian?
knights.
You have chosen wisely.
You have chosen wisely. Yeah, so there was like 100 cups there, and he chose like the carpenter's cup.
The simplest, historically accurate cup that he could find.
Yeah, not a gold one or like with gems and jewels.
I feel like we're being too critical of this, because it is entertainment.
Yeah, it was.
And it is totally entertaining. Really good.
I really like the scene where he had to like have faith and cross that huge gorge, and he just had to because there was an invisible path,
right?
And he just throw sand on it, and then he was able to cross.
Right. Well, he threw sand on it after he got over, which always surprised. Like, why didn't he throw sand on it before he went? Before he took the step.
Yeah. So
maybe someone can post on the board if they know the answer to that.
Exactly. So the movie was all three of them were great, but yeah, I would have to agree. I actually really enjoyed Raiders of the Lost Ark because it was the first one. It was really graphic as well, like the scene where everyone melts.
Yeah. All those are permanently, just imprinted on my brain because I saw them at such a young age.
But yeah, actually, I really liked the Temple of Doom because of also the crazy food that they have in the dinner table, the monkey brains and all that stuff, and the snake.
Yeah.
He cuts open the snake and all the baby snakes.
There's all little snakes inside. Yeah,
and
it's
also
pretty disgusting.
The insect part where they're going through the cave and there's full of insects.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. There's certain things about Indiana Jones that all the movies are gonna have, and that's it's comforting almost. There's always a gross out part with gross snakes or insects or bugs. Like in the first one, he falls into the pit with the snakes.
Yeah.
The second one, it's eating the insects. The third one, it's all the rats underneath the church.
Oh yeah, that's
and
right.
so there's always these things that always recur. He always almost loses his hat or his whip.
Yeah, his hat.
He always has to grab it under a door that's about to close, and he gets it just in the nick of time. There's something really comforting about him.
Yeah, that's.
But
true.
I think from a film perspective, critical perspective, sometimes it's pretty formulaic.
And the movies are directed by Steven Spielberg, I think, right?
Right.
And George Lucas is involved somehow.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe he directed some of the early ones or the first one, and it was produced by Spielberg. I'm not quite sure. So
I'm not really sure either. But yeah, all in all, I really enjoyed the saga. The fourth one, we don't really get into it because it was a little bit different and not really probably even worth mentioning. I didn't personally.
Trash.
I didn't really like it.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Even see it.
I like the fact that it's actually set in Peru, one aspect, and it's the whole thing of the Nazca lines. You know how they have the lines. They're in the fields in the desert of Peru, you can see the
from way up,
above.
way
Yeah,
up
you can
above,
see
yeah.
like the form of a monkey or a spider.
Right.
or a
Okay.
person.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So, and then many people relate it to being created by aliens. So then the movie actually creates the link between the early Incas and aliens and all that cool stuff.
Wow, really?
So yeah, it is.
Is it worth checking out? For free?
It's just for free. If your friend has a DVD and can lend it to you or something, then yeah, it's an okay just closure to the saga, I guess. Just like it's the
They don't leave the door open for another one.
Not really.
I mean, Harrison Ford is,
he's like 60.
bless his heart, but he's probably not going to be around for another series.
No, probably not. So go out and watch it. It was interesting, and actually the crystal skull, the history behind it is interesting as well. You know, there actually was a crystal
There's
skull
historical basis behind it,
found. Yeah,
like the rest of the
kind
movies.
of. But then
It's
they
always
go
kind.
they go they go a little bit too into fiction. So check it out. We're actually going to listen real fast to a clip of Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's describing the Ark of the Covenant. So let's listen.
Nazis have discovered Tanis.
Just what does that mean to you, Tanis?
The city of Tanis is one of the possible resting places of the Lost Ark.
The Lost Ark?
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant, the chest the Hebrews used to carry around the Ten Commandments.
What do you mean, Ten Commandments? You're talking about the Ten Commandments?
Yes, the actual Ten Commandments, the original stone tablets that Moses brought down out of Mount Horeb and smashed, if you believe in that sort of thing. Either you guys ever go to Sunday school?
Well,
Oh, look. The Hebrews took the broken pieces and put them in the Ark. When they settled in Canaan, they put the Ark in a place called the Temple of Solomon,
in Jerusalem.
where it stayed for many years, until all of a sudden, whoosh, is gone.
Where?
Well, nobody knows where or when.
However, an Egyptian pharaoh
Shishak.
yes, invaded the city of Jerusalem around about 980 BC, and he may have taken the ark back to the city of Tanis and hidden it in a secret chamber called the Well of Souls.
Secret chamber.
However, about a year after the pharaoh had returned to Egypt, the city of Tanis was consumed by the desert in a sandstorm which lasted a whole year, wiped clean by the wrath of God.
All right, we're back. So that's pretty accurate historically, I think.
Right, and there's something I've been thinking about it. These movies, I'm not sure if it was the first, but I think it definitely started a trend of these historically semi-historical entertainment sector. I mean, you just mentioned like Dan Brown, right? Like he's made a huge career out of writing about sort of historical,
But fiction
as well, kind of this genre. I mean, also what Nicolas Cage has been in a few movies as well.
like National Treasure and stuff
Right,
like
right.
that.
And I think those traditions are pretty well rooted in
think
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's true. I think people like it because it's pretty easy to understand, and it's a little bit of history, but then people take it as historical. It's like, this is the truth. This guy knows what he's talking about.
The history, yeah.
So,
entertaining history.
yeah, it's entertaining, especially Dan Brown, I think. All right, well, maybe we'll talk about one of Dan Brown's books that was later made into a film, which is The Da Vinci Code. That was pretty interesting. Angels and Demons as well. So maybe we'll touch that topic later on the next episode. But that's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, please visit our website, englishpod.com, and we'll see you guys there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.